Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final keynote and the final session for today. We're super excited to welcome you to Why Collaboration and Diversity Go Hand in Hand, presented by the amazing Michelle Thompson-Dolberry, who is Vice President and Senior HR Business Partner at American Express. And we also have Nelly Kiboi, Software Engineer at American Express as well. We're super excited to welcome you. Don't hesitate to share your questions in the Q&A. Michelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jordan, and the rest of the team for putting together such an amazing conference. And we're so glad that you are sticking it out and hanging out to join us for this session. I am excited to be joined by my colleague, Nelly. And we're going to talk a little bit more about collaboration, which you've been doing over the span of the conference. It really helps to foster that sense of community, encourage creativity, make space for diverse thinkers. And so we're excited to talk a little bit about how we think collaboration and diversity kind of go hand in hand, and some of the things that we can all do to bring that to life every day. So Nelly, I think, let's jump right in. We've got a bunch of questions. And for those of you who are tuning in, make sure you put your questions in your chat for us. Let's talk first about why diversity inclusion is important in tech. It seems like a big, huge, broad question, but let's talk about why it's important.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. I've been working for American Express for a number of years right now. And one of the things that American Express talks about when they're talking about diversity and inclusion is, why do we do it? And we do it because it's the right thing to do. So I will start from, it's the right thing to do. But if you look at studies and conversations that have been happening around diversity and inclusion in technology, not only are you listening to diverse views and making better decisions, you're creating better products that meet the needs of a wider audience, allowing you to innovate and be creative in how you create your products.
Yeah. It's so important, right? Nothing is connecting us more or driving more things that are happening in the world right now than tech. And so I think ensuring that we are being expansive in this world and the way that we're thinking is a necessity at this point, right? It can't just be dominated by a few. I think that's what it's historically been. It impacts too much of what we're doing. It's too far reaching to actually be effective. And so I think you're right that business case that we've talked about from a business perspective for a long time totally holds true from a technology perspective as well, right? It's the right thing to do, and not doing so, we've seen can create those unintended consequences. So I totally agree. When designing technology, it's really essential to collaborate with everyone, all sorts of people. What do you think leaders can do to encourage collaboration? And can you share some best practices on things that you do either with your teams or that your teams are working on, especially now in this virtual environment?
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. I think I'll start by answering the first question around what leaders can do to encourage collaboration. Whenever I'm in my team and working in the teams that I work in, one of the reasons why I speak up is because I am ensured that my perspective is welcome, that I can share with my team members without feeling like my voice is not heard, or even if I say something, I don't face any consequences. So leaders creating an environment like that where communication is encouraged, and a culture of listening to other people's idea, even if they're different, and finding a way, if you have conflicts, to resolve within that, encouraging that communication from leaders is important. And having the courage to allow different perspectives. If you look at the conversations and you see, okay, we're getting almost similar types of answers all the time, are there things that you need to look at to ensure that you're getting different perspective? So looking outside and seeking out advice, learning, and adopting a growth mindset where you are constantly trying to learn to adopt new ways of collaboration, especially in technology where things are changing constantly, and how we think about collaboration. maybe you need to adopt this new technology to encourage more collaboration. And I think we've seen that in the year as we've been working from home, most of us. And in terms of like the practices that we need to, that I ensure and I've seen happening in the team that I work in, is having things like meetings that are of value, using tools like Slack that ensure that people from different regions can communicate. And as you set up those meetings, ensure that you have an agenda, especially for people who are not able to share their opinions outrightly, so that they can be able to feel that they're welcome to speak up in those environments. And also ensuring that as you set up those meetings, that people who are not able to speak out, that you go and ask them why you find out and collect data around that to see if there's something that is within the team that doesn't allow people to collaborate. Yeah, thank you.
I think you made some really great points. The first thing that you said that struck me was from the different teams that you work on. And I think that's one thing that's really important, right? We don't have a static life. It's not just spending all our day with one group of people. It's multiple teams and different people who we work with in pockets. And so it's really important as we're in these different groupings to make sure that we are reaching out to ensure that everyone feels like they belong to those, right? It's not like, oh, I spend 8 hours a day talking to the same 5 people. And so I think there's a real great opportunity for leaders to make sure they're being mindful of that. And then for those, in the meeting, to make sure that we all have a role to play from a collaboration perspective, right? And that we are bringing each other in. I know when you and I talked, you said, I'm introverted. And so, it's not always easy for me to speak out in a meeting. I'm extremely extroverted. So it's plenty easy for me to talk all the time, even if I don't even know what I'm saying. And so for me, what I found is that it's easy for me to then say, oh, I haven't heard from Nelly, and to lend my voice to you to say, hey, Nelly, do you want to jump in on this? Right. And so I think we all have a role to play to ensure that collaboration stays top of mind for all of us, right? And I think, in terms of some of the tools that we have, I have a few gray hair. I'm not afraid to admit it. And so, some of these things are newer for me. I'm used to an old school way of working. And so for those of you, as you're entering the workforce, as you're newer in the workforce, you have a really great opportunity to help some of the dinosaurs like me along, and to say, you know what? We don't have to send you an email that has an attachment with version 5 and version 6 and version 7. We can collaborate in this document together. And, someone might be not as cooperative in the beginning. But if you take your time and you take us along, I think we will get on that journey and realize that it is much more efficient. And so, when you encounter someone and it seems like they might be pushing back to doing something, realize it might be because they don't know how to do it. Right. And so I still have to ask my mom, did you email me or did you text me, Mom? Like, I just need you to know, what did you do? And she's like, I don't know, just look in your phone. Excellent. So remember, we're not all starting in the same place, but we all have a place in this together. And so, when you talked about that multiple teams, it really made me reflect on how much diversity we do have in the workforce right now, and how much we all need to be mindful of that for each other. So thank you for that. One of the things I want to talk about next is feedback. And that's something that we've been talking a lot about at American Express recently. Having that culture of feedback is really important. And how can we make sure that we are promoting it? One of the things that you said before that struck me was having that feeling of safety. And so talk a little bit more about how can we make sure that we are inviting feedback all around, even when it's uncomfortable?
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Michelle. I think earlier, as I spoke about being an introvert, and I think I remember joining a team, and one of the challenges I faced during the meeting was I had ideas, but I didn't know, how can I speak up? How can I share my feedback around this? I was pretty new in the team. And some of the things I did, and also working with the team, amazing leader I had, was speaking about my experience. So sharing that and having people who are there to help you. So during the meetings, they would see if I am quiet, ask, oh, Nelly, do you have something to contribute? Michelle, would you like to add something to this conversation? That really helps get that feedback, especially for people who don't feel comfortable raising their voices in the meeting, and encourages that culture of collaboration. The other thing which I think is important is learning how to give feedback. I think sometimes learning the process of like, what kind of feedback am I trying to give? How can I share this information? That also is a muscle that I think needs to be built. One step by step, similar to how you build your confidence, is how you build providing feedback and also listening. I won't forget saying about listening. It's important to listen. So those are some of the things I would say. I think the other thing is also collecting data. If you notice that, okay, these people are the ones who are leading this conversation, but why are we not hearing from this other people? So ensuring that you collect that type of feedback so that it can help and contribute into changing the culture if feedback is not something that you see from the data that is not being gathered. Some of the things I would add to that.
Yeah, I think a couple things that you said really ring true. I think inviting feedback is really important, right? People aren't always going to be comfortable giving it to you, particularly if it's constructive or, not overly positive. And so I think it is really important to constantly ask for feedback so that people know that you're open to it. And that's individually, whether it's about your performance or in a wider group, whether it's feedback on, an idea that you've presented. And so I think that's actually really important. And one thing, we have a culture where we are very relationship based, as you know, Nelly, right? And so it's important for us to build these relationships. And sometimes I think people think that it's not nice to give feedback. And one of the things that I've now started to tell people is that it's actually not nice not to be honest, right? And so being transparent and honest about how you feel about something is the nice thing to do. That is the way that we want to operate with each other. And so I think a lot of us feel badly about giving the feedback sometimes. And so we don't want to, and then we try to sugarcoat it. And then we use the good old sandwich method that I use with my hubby, which is like, it starts with, I love you. And then he knows a big, huge butt is coming in. And then I do whatever. And then I try to remind him that I love him again. And so, but thinking about how people are going to receive your feedback, I think is really important, right? I think it's important to know how people want to receive it to ensure that they do. I like it right between the eyes. Just give it to me. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't wait. Just give it to me. But some people like it to be a little softer. And so I can't give feedback the way I like to receive it, because then it misses the mark. And so I think it's really important for us to think about the role that we all play in collectively improving and getting better. That's the point of feedback, right? I say feedback is a gift. Sometimes it might be wrapped in sandpaper, right? It might rub you a little the wrong way, but it's really, really important to give and to receive. And so I think you had some great points on how we can be keeping that top of mind and making sure that we are being open and honest with one another to deliver a better end product, right? It's always in service of the greater good. So I think that's important to note as well. There's been a lot of research around the importance of diversity and inclusion. I, of course, was, working on our inclusion and diversity efforts recently. And it's been an important conversation in corporations, particularly over, the last 18 months or so. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things we've been doing, at Amex in terms of embedding more inclusive practices in the way that we're working. And what have you been experiencing?
Thank you, Michelle. In terms of what I've been experiencing within American Express Tech in terms of inclusive practices that we're adopting, I work as a engineer developing products for our customers. And one of the most important things, especially as you're building products to your customers, is accessibility. Are you reaching all your users? Are you creating your product so that everyone is able to use it? So those are some of the things to think about. And if you're releasing a product without thinking about that, then that's not a complete product. So having those processes embedded within your engineering practices, within your teams, and also thinking about how you're designing your products from when you're getting data about your customers. Where are you getting that data? Is that data, questioning where that data is coming from? Are you involving diverse perspectives and users when you're collecting that data, to when you're building and designing that product, to when the product is ready? Are you testing it within the market, experimenting? So questioning and adding those practices within how we build our products, and something that I, as I'm doing my day-to-day work, think about as I create this product. Is it meeting the user's needs, and getting perspective from a wider network around that? Another thing to think about that I have seen is, as we think about also the products, we as engineers, are we having a culture that allows us to feel welcome and able to contribute our ideas? And I think one of the great things that I've seen that Amex has done is introducing inclusive language. So that allows me, like, as I contribute to building this product, I feel welcome. And seeing practical steps being taken within the company I work with is a great thing, and ensures that we are thinking about diversity and inclusion and doing the work. Another thing is thinking about training and practices. We all have biases, and as we build up the tech product that we do every day, we add those prejudices into it. So I think it's important to have training and understand what are this, how can you combat this, how can you think about others as you're building this product. That's an important element in terms of as you're building your products. And I think one of the things that I have seen happen recently is that historically, maybe within American Express, there's been less focus around some areas, and we've had a global innovation challenge where different teams and different people from different regions within the world have come together to solve these problems. What are these areas that we need solutions for? How can we tackle this? What are some of the gaps that we have not tackled before? And seeing that coming, especially from technology as we build our products, is a great thing and a practical way of solving for historical things that maybe did not get the same level of focus as before. The other ways that we can inclusive practices have been introduced in technology now, especially with everyone working remotely, tools like Slack, WebEx have become so important in encouraging everyone to have a voice and collaborate. So having those tools present, and also ensuring that they are accessible. So adding things like closed captioning, so that people who can be able to be able to tell the words on the screen as someone speaks. So those are some of the things to think about, not only looking at the journey of you as an individual, from an employee to how you provide to your consumer, and looking at every step of that way, and ensuring that you're thinking about whether your products are inclusive and how you can look for those gaps and try to solve for them. Michelle.
I think, yeah, you made a really great point. It's now critical, right? So, you said it nicely, areas where we may not have been doing as much before. What we recognize is we have to now, right? And we're in this moment where it is at the forefront, and we recognize what happens when we aren't thinking more broadly and we aren't being inclusive, right? And so I love that you brought up accessibility. These are the things that a lot of times when we talk about diversity, we tend to limit it to, we're talking about, gender, we're talking about ethnicity or race. No, that's so much broader than that. And there's so many ways that technology can enhance that experience. Things that we can do now that we never could have done before, to make others feel like they belong in our environment, right? And that we have tools that will allow them to be whomever they are, whether it's from a neurodiversity perspective, whether it's from an ability perspective, and to say, you are welcome here with us, and we have the tools to help you and to enable you to do your best work. That's what's really exciting about this time, right? I think that now it's like we have these tools, and we can do good with them. We can do a lot more than we have. And I know that we hopefully will be able to take a couple of questions also from the audience. So if you guys have questions, please do make sure that you're sending them in. But I think one of the last things I want to talk about is around, the thought of holding ourselves and holding corporations accountable for the commitment to diversity that so many have put out now. As I said, this is a special moment in time. I have not seen this in my lifetime, and I, for one, am going to take full advantage of it, right? I think this is a great opportunity for us to, particularly as people of color, as women of color, to lean in more than we have before. And so, as we think about, I think a lot of people say, how can we hold organizations accountable? I also want to ask, how do we hold ourselves accountable, right? I know it's easy to feel kicked out and pushed out and not part of it, and then we can just lean back and say, I'm not in this. How can we encourage each other to lean into this moment while all eyes are on us and take advantage of it? And so I'm interested in your thoughts either on how we keep corporations accountable or how we hold ourselves accountable for being present in this moment and driving things forward.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I think it's a really important question. And I think thinking about my career, especially as I have grown it within the industry, I think it speaks to the volume of like the issue we have in terms of how many Black women engineers do people know. Within the teams I've worked in, I can count the number of times I have been the only Black woman in those teams. So looking at things like those as statistics that can be used to track down things like this, I would say that even being in these positions, like where I am right now, in itself is a way that you are showing people your role model, and there's someone who's looking back and saying, that's someone I would, if that person is there, then I can see myself in that same position because I identify with that person. So I think as we look at ourselves and how to keep ourselves accountable, it's for us to continue to create space for others to be able to come in and have a voice. So leaving the place where you are better than what it was. It usually comes with a lot of emotional labor. I'm not going to lie about that. But I think finding the right networks, and especially even from organizations like this right now, where there's a community that you can reach out to, work together, find people that you can continue to support each other, and find those communities that help you prosper, where you can share some of the challenges that you're going through are so important. And it's one of the ways that I've been able to get role models within this industry, and also find people that I can talk to and share my experiences. I think in terms of companies and how to hold them accountable, I think what's great is to speak up and speak out about the companies and experiences that we're having within those companies, and also having metrics to track this down. So sharing data around how many Black people are within those companies, how many people of color are within those companies, how's the hiring, how's the retention, how's the promotion, having those statistics that companies can be tracked down with, and also ensuring that once people join companies, that we're creating environments where their voices are heard, they can speak out. We're not only just bringing in people into our companies that we work in, but also ensuring that they're able to speak out. And I think that's why, and the conversation we're having today around collaboration and feedback is important to even create those products.
Perfect. And I think we are almost I think we have just hit our time. And so, Nelly, thank you so much for having this conversation. I'll get in trouble if I don't encourage you guys to visit us in our booth. Please, please, please register with us. Stay in contact with us. We want to get to know you. We want to meet you. We want to learn about who you are and tell you more about who we are. So thank you so much for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of the time and your weekend as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.